Immunity is how fast do I recover when I have a virus. That's immunity. Hey everyone, this is Dr. Barrett. I'm a board-certified chiropractic physician with a passion and emphasis in functional nutrition. We can't wait to add value to your health as well as the health of your family. Thanks for listening in to the Real Health Podcast.
Hey, before we jump into today's episode, do me a favor. If you like this episode and you like hearing from Dr. B, share it on your Facebook, share it on your Instagram. We're really trying to get this health movement out. So without further ado, let's get to today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Real Health Podcast with Dr. B. This is your host, Lane, and I am so fired up to be sitting across from Dr. B today to talk about everything from, immunity to biohacking to nutrition. You know, Dr. B, I've had the pleasure of knowing him from quite some time, and he just is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this, and I know that he's going to add so much value in the form of this podcast. And so really, today's episode, we just want to lay the groundwork of why we're doing this, and then also at the end of it, we're going to give you 3 immunity tips going into the fall. So without further ado, Dr. B, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're finally getting this thing off the ground, and I'll tell you that the Real Health Podcast is birthed from a passion of creating real health for real people. Right? You can listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of information out there, but it seems to be touching on the kind of top 0.1% of people in terms of biohacking podcasts, nutrition podcasts, which means you're already healthy, you're just trying to elevate your health. But what about the practical, everyday, hey, I'm just trying to be healthy. I'm trying to get into a healthy state. That's where I really want that real people component come in. Hey, real everyday people, usually moms with 3 kids or dads on the run, how do we create health in our bodies? And then also, if you are healthy, if you're on this health journey, you've been on there for years, how do we elevate our health? So I want to kind of broad audience support people on their journey.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, first off, I think we owe our listeners a little bit of a background of Dr. B, who you are, a little bit about you. So how long have you been in practice? Let's just start with that.
So it's 12 years. I've been a chiropractic physician here in Knoxville for 12 years. And then, a large passion of mine and where the emphasis has been, even over the last few years, is in the functional medicine, functional nutrition component, because you just see where the adjustments can take people so far and so to such an incredible state of health. But there's a good chunk of people that walk around this planet that they're doing the right things, but they're still not experiencing health. And those roadblocks, we like to get to the root issue of that, and a lot of times that's kind of doing some deeper rooted analysis. And so that's where the emphasis of functional nutrition, functional medicine comes in. And of course, movement needs to be a key component to everyone's health journey.
Yeah, and I think that's, for me, speaking for myself, I think that finding the why of why someone is feeling the way that they are is so important, and that's what you do so well. You spend so much time finding the why of why that person feels the way that they do, and I think that's what that's a characteristic that's just really truly amazing about yourself.
Wow, yeah, very cool. Yeah, and it is a lot of times we call it the discovery phase. I like to call it the discovery phase. It's the hardest phase. A lot of people just want to move into treatment. They want to move into care. They want to move into some health initiative. But if you do the right discovery phase and we are able to find the root issue, then the healing journey is something that's so much easier than getting started and not getting results and then trying this protocol and trying that protocol. Now, it's the discovery phase that's so important, and that's this information that I actually want to communicate to everyone is you don't have to be in front of me to go through that discovery phase. A lot of people can discover where their health obstacles are by just listening in to this podcast.
Oh, that's so good. That's one of the reasons why I'm so fired up about really sitting down and doing this, because there's so much power in the way we can get our information nowadays. And I think a podcast is just a phenomenal way to do that. And so, a little bit about your family. You've got I know you have a ton of kids, and
I do.
But you're not from Knoxville.
Yes.
Let listeners know that.
Right, yeah. So, well, originally born in New Orleans. Florida has been my home for most of my life. And then went to Atlanta for grad school, and that's when I met my wife, Becky. We got married when I was going through school, and then moved up to Knoxville here a little over 12 years ago. And now we have 4 kids, 10, 8, 6, and 2 at the time that we're recording this. They are wild and fun, and we homeschool. Well, my wife homeschools. I support her in the journey. So we're grinding through that. But, the things that as a parent we communicate on this podcast, I see it not just through a doctor's lens, but through a husband's lens and also through a father's lens. So I want to be, really practical too, and just, hey, this is what our family does. We're not perfect. We aren't. And so how do we create health in children, knowing that children are constantly exposed to the world of sugar, crack candy and sweets? How do we create health even in our kids? So I'm excited about, talking about that as well.
Yeah, that's so good. Moving into your vision or what your passion is. I get to see it on a weekly basis. But, share with the listeners a little bit just where your heart lies with this podcast, and really just kind of paint the picture of, before we jump into the top 3 immunity, like where do you see this, and what's your vision for this podcast and all the listeners?
Well, I'll tell you, the last 2 years have been hard for me because I've struggled between this idea of should I voice and communicate what I think we should be doing as a healthcare society, or do I just sit back and kind of observe, watch, and process? And so really over the last 2 years, I've been really slow to speak. I had a private Facebook page where I was communicating a lot, and then I just couldn't help but every time I got on Facebook or Instagram, I just cringed, or news, I just cringed at what's just being communicated and falsified information, and it honestly turned me off. So I just shut down on all social media fronts, all news fronts. I just turned it off. I took a step back and I just processed, hey, how do we communicate effectively? And so I think there's this huge pendulum swing that happens, and it's so polarizing, so black and white. But health is not black and white. People ask me every day, should I get vaccinated? Or every day, should I take this supplement or this medication? Or, and you have to look at all these variables and one person to determine what the best health decision they should make. So why are we blanket decisioning to everyone? That's to me. Everyone should eat well, move their body, get adjusted. Like, there's fundamentals that everyone should do, and then outside of that, hey, let's just navigate your health care with a healthcare physician and decide what's the best route for you. So this podcast really came out of 2 years of just sitting back, processing, and saying, hey, how do we communicate a voice that helps people in their journey without polarizing them to say, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that, this is bad, this is good. There are intangibles that are just gray. And so how do we make the best decision for ourselves and our health care? That's why today is happening. And moving forward, the vision is really how do we create health in our bodies one step at a time? How do we create consistency? And how do we make sure that we are continually adding more and more healthy variables to our everyday life?
Yeah, what I think I heard in there was, this isn't a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
And that is why I have seen over the years of getting to know you is that you can take a look at different people, different circumstances, and come to a resolution of like, hey, how can we fix that? And that's why I think this is going to add so much value to people, because it isn't nutrition or supplementation or exercise. It isn't one size fits all.
That's right.
And everybody needs things that are different.
That's right.
And I can't wait to sit here and have these conversations with you. But I don't think we should leave this podcast without giving the listeners a little bit of nuggets of, we're going into the fall season.
Yep.
We're going into the respiratory illnesses. Let's give the listeners some nuggets to walk away with. What are the top 3 or 4 things that families can be doing going into the fall season, the changing of the weathers, of boosting their immunity?
Yeah, I'd say one of the simplest things that costs pretty much nothing is daily nasal rinses. I think this is a huge tip, trick, and health hack that if you wake up in the morning, to irrigate your sinus just kind of releases everything that you've stored that night, right? And it kickstarts your lymphatic system, kickstarts your drainage system. And then I do it also before bed. So twice a day, I'll usually do some type of nasal rinse. Now, there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, I was about to say, hold on a second. Let's pause. What are we talking about
here? So there's what you would classically call a neti pot.
Okay.
There's a little bit more kind of advanced systems called like sinus irrigation systems, where it's more battery powered and battery operated. And then there's the simple things where you just do nasal sprays, like a xylitol based nasal spray. And that, again, just helps promote drainage. And if you think about most viruses coming through the respiratory tract, if we can keep that area flowing, then we have a much better chance of preventing any type of immune compromised situation and viral load in our nasal cavity. So I see that as being a huge tip, trick for people coming into this season, fall season and winter season.
Okay, so you can get a neti pot at CVS or Walgreens.
That's right.
Or Amazon. So let's say tomorrow the listeners listening to this are going to wake up. They don't have that. What are they going to do?
Easy, yeah. So my recommendation, first thing would be, if you're not today having it, you just do a steam shower. Okay. Just that natural steam shower which segues into my second recommendation, but we'll hold back on that for a second. Steam showers, again, just that water and that steam can help thin the mucous membrane. And this is huge for babies. If you have an infant and they're congested, you want to just go ahead and start in the smallest bathroom in the house, a steam shower, let it roll for about 5 minutes, fill up, bring your baby in there, and breastfeed or feed the baby in that steam shower. And that's going to help, as they breathe through their nose, it's going to thin that mucus and really help prevent the nasal congestion that then results in a lower respiratory infection. So I would say steam showers are the easiest. And then, just go to the store and buy a bottle of xylitol nasal spray, or get your local neti pot, which you can find it, again, like you said, CVS, Walgreens.
Yeah. Okay, so I've also seen and read online sometimes too that you can put some essential oils when you do that. Is that beneficial? And if you do, what could you do with essential oils?
So I would never. There's rare circumstances where I'd ever ingest a essential oil. So I just want to clarify: never ingest, but diffusing is fine. Okay. So if you did a steam shower in this, what I've done is in the sink, I'll do hot water and drop a couple drops of like a peppermint or eucalyptus.
Got it.
And I'll let that create an aromatic atmosphere that then I go into, or you can diffuse, but you never want to put it directly into a neti pot, and just because it's so high potent, and that's what people don't understand. There's thousands upon thousands of leaves to make one like drop of peppermint oil. So it's so strong that you just want to diffuse it but not ingest it.
Yeah, that's so good. I've got a 7-week-old, and I'm sitting here taking notes because he'll wake up with a stuffy nose sometimes, and I'm like, well, let's go do this now.
That's right.
Yeah. So, all right. So another tip, what do we have for immunity?
Yeah. So step number 2, trick number 2 would be, I think contrast showers are very valuable. And so what we're doing here is either awakening or calming down the nervous system, which the nervous system regulates your immune system. So the best hacks for immunity is really regulating your nervous system. And we know it because the more stressed we are, our higher risk for illness and injury, right? You look at that through data called heart rate variability, or HRV. So if we can minimize stress on our nervous system and maximize its recovery, we can boost immunity. And so that's where contrast showers come in. If you do a contrast shower,
so tell me contrast shower.
Yeah.
Define that a little bit for me.
So contrast between hot and cold.
Okay.
So it's usually a time domain. So you usually go about 20 seconds of cold as you can get the shower. Okay.
As cold as you can get it, people. As cold as you can get it.
Yeah. And before it shuts off. That's that kind of right before that. And then 20 minutes of hot water, or 20 seconds of hot water, and just rotate that about 10 times. And just that contrast of going into a cold state to a hot state, it just causes a lot of lymph flow, blood flow, and then it's best to even go into a cold shower before bed. So if it's in the morning, I put in hot as my last, and then if it's at the nighttime, I'll do cold as my last interval.
People are not going to like that.
No, they're not. They're not. So cold is it's a continuum. Like there's a lot of different cold options. So my recommendation is do something where you don't scream, because that's going to stress the nervous system. So you want to go to the point of all the way except screaming it's cold.
Everyone in your house is like, what's going on upstairs?
That's right. And when you do the cold at the end before bed, it really helps get all the blood flow to your core organs and sets you up for getting into deeper sleep faster. That's why I recommend that cold end at night.
Yeah, I started doing probably contrast showers 3 or 4 years ago, and it's crazy to think like warm showers are so comfortable, and that's just what we do. That's what we're used to. And so when you can throw your body into a cold shower, it wakes you up, and it feels fantastic. It really does.
And then not to get into too specifics, but those cold shock proteins, activating those is the huge part to recovery and repair. So that's my second recommendation.
Cool. What about number 3?
Yeah, number 3 is sounds super simple, but hey, this podcast is real health for real people. Okay, so cut out the sugar. Sugar is just so inflammatory to our body and so immune compromising. So if we can eliminate sugar, and I'm talking about added sugars, right? Cokes, Pops, Pepsis, whatever. Also bagged, boxed, canned. We look on the back and we see carbohydrates, and then underneath we look at sugars or added sugars. Those are the ones we want to eliminate to help create a healthier immune system. So minimizing sugar intake and cleaning up our nutrition a little bit, increasing I would say most of us are protein deficient. So increasing our protein, healthy fats, and low sugar, if not any sugar, is going to be a phenomenal health recommendation for building immunity.
Yeah. So I know that even in our family, it's there's sugars and then there's added sugars on the bottom. Define a little bit how do parents or people define the two difference of that?
Well, there's sugars found in food. So, if it's a whole food-based product, you're going to have sugar in that food item, right? So fruit has fructose, that's a sugar. But when they add sugar to make it sweeter or more palatable, those are added sugar. So that's straight up, they're adding cane sugar, for instance, to that particular box bag can. And that's really where you get in trouble, because there's easily 10, 15 grams of added sugar per serving, and no one just consumes one serving of cereal, right? No, that's like 5 little pieces. And so you usually consume 2-3 servings of that particular food item, and then now all of a sudden you have 30 grams of added sugar. That's a lot.
Yeah,
and this is the reality. 150 grams or 150 pounds of sugar per person per year. That's how much an American consumes. 150 pounds of sugar per person per year. So it's easy to look at added sugars as being a big offender.
I'm sure we probably could do an entire podcast on sugar.
That's right.
And we probably will.
I would say.
Yeah. So then just since we're going into the holiday season with sugar, if someone was baking or if they're doing things, what is a good sugar alternative that they can get at their local store?
Well, so there's healthier sugars that are really lower on the glycemic index, and that's probably what you're alluding to. Is for instance, there's date syrup or coconut sugar. Like they have a little bit more nutritional density than, let's just say, cane sugar. They're not going to spike your insulin as much, but the alternative sweeteners are artificial, can get you in trouble. Aspartame, sucralose. But then the other ones like xylitol and stevia, they're good, but at the same time, sometimes they're hard to cook with and navigate around. So my typical recommendation, what we usually keep in our house is going to be more in the form of like a date syrup. We use honey, and then we'll use some coconut sugar. So those are usually our big 3 that we use if we want to sweeten up Becky's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Those are delicious. Yeah. I've had my share of baker's dozen probably of those cookies. So all right, so the top 3: nasal, contrast showers, and eliminate the sugar for immunity. Anything else you want to share with listeners?
That's simple. If you can do that, if you can rinse daily, do some contrast showers, and you eliminate sugar, you're gonna considerably lower your risk for infection. And real quick, immunity is not I don't get sick. Immunity is how fast do I recover when I have a virus. That's immunity. So when we think, hey, I'm just not going to get sick, no, that's not practical. We're gonna have viruses and bacteria that come upon our body. So it's not like, hey, let's eliminate that. It's no, when it comes in, we have such a strong immune system that our rate of healing is exponentially faster.
That's it. That's the line. That's so good. If we can get people to think about immunity as when it comes into you, how quickly can you fight it? That's it. That's good. That's so good. Dr. B, that's episode 1. I think we added some value to some people, and I hope that the listeners really like that. Anything else you'd like to say at the end of this?
No, looking forward to episode 2.
Here we go. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for listening to the Real Health Podcast with Dr. B. Before you get out of here, before you exit, there are 2 things that would really help the Real Health Podcast. One would be to share it on your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, wherever you're on a social network. And then 2, go to Apple Podcasts and scroll to the bottom and give us a 5-star review and leave us a review. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.